12:48 a.m. You are nobody. That's the first thing you learn. You've just graduated the police academy and you think that means something. It doesn't. Not here. Not in this department. Not yet. Your badge is fresh, your boots are clean, and every veteran on the floor can tell both of those things just by looking at you. Your first assignment is General Patrol. That's where everyone starts, even the ones who one day end up in SWAT. You ride with a training officer who has been on the job for 14 years and speaks in 3-word sentences. He doesn't hate you, he just doesn't see you. Yet, you're furniture. You respond to calls, write reports, learn how to talk to people who are having the worst moments of their lives, and you do it again the next day and the day after that. The work is repetitive and exhausting and occasionally terrifying, and nobody tells you that. They told you about it at the academy, but telling and knowing are different things. Somewhere in your first year you see SWAT deploy for the first time. A barricaded suspect 3 blocks from where you're holding a perimeter. You watch them come off the truck in their dark gear, moving in a way that regular patrol doesn't move. Quiet, deliberate, like they've already rehearsed every step they're about to take. They don't run. That's what surprises you. Everyone else at a scene like this moves fast, but they move with this controlled, almost slow precision that somehow covers ground faster than a jog. The incident is over in 40 minutes. You don't even see the entry. You're 200 meters back behind the cruiser. But something shifts in you watching it. You put in for SWAT selection at the 18-month mark, which is the earliest your department allows. Your training officer tells you the attrition rate without you asking. 63% of candidates don't finish selection. You say nothing. He shrugs and goes back to his coffee. Selection is 8 days. No, that's not long enough to explain what those 8 days are. The physical portion is straightforward enough. If you've been training, runs, swims, obstacle courses, timed events that you have to complete with a team, because individual performance isn't the point. The point is whether you fall apart when you're exhausted and cold and your team is struggling and someone is screaming in your face and you still have 4 hours until the next rest block. Some people find that they do fall apart. They find out things about themselves that they hadn't known before, and most of those people leave. Not because they're weak, because they're honest. You find out things about yourself too. You find out that when everything is stripped away, when you're past the point where willpower is a concept and it becomes something more animal, something quieter, you don't quit. You don't know why. You just don't. You pass selection. You are now the newest member of the team. Rank 3, SWAT operator, entry level. Your first week on the team, a senior operator named Reyes hands you a gear bag and says, "You'll carry this until I say otherwise." You don't know what's in it. It's heavy. You carry it for 6 weeks. Eventually, you find out it was equipment that used to belong to someone who washed out. Reyes was testing whether you'd ask. You didn't ask. That was apparently the right answer. Entry-level operators go first through the door. Not because SWAT is reckless with new people's lives, because breaching a doorway is the most dangerous moment of any operation. The fatal funnel, they call it, and the entry team needs its most aggressive, most physically capable people leading it. Fresh operators tend to be exactly that. Aggressive, physically capable, and not yet burdened by enough experience to hesitate. Experience, it turns out, can be a liability if it teaches you to think too much at the moment of commitment. You go through your first door on a no-knock warrant at 5:40 in the morning. You don't remember much of it. Adrenaline does something to time. What you remember is the noise. It's louder than any training scenario, louder than the range, louder than anything. And then it's over, and you're standing in a hallway that smells like cigarettes and cooking grease, and the team is clearing rooms, and someone is already zip-tying a suspect. And the whole thing has taken maybe 11 seconds from breach to control. You're shaking slightly. You don't tell anyone. You do it again and again. And after enough operations, something changes. The shaking stops, not because the danger disappears, but because your nervous system accepts that this is what you do now. You develop a specialty. You apply for the designated marksman course and spend 3 weeks learning to shoot at distances and under conditions that would make your academy instructors uncomfortable. You come back to the team different, quieter on operations, more useful. By year 4, you're a senior operator. The newer guys ask you questions without realizing they're doing it. They watch how you move and copy it the same way you once watched the team from 200 meters back behind a cruiser. You don't tell them this. They'll figure it out. The job teaches everything eventually, if you survive long enough to learn. 12:50 a.m. The day you become a team leader is the day the job changes. Permanently. Not because the danger increases, though in some ways it does, but because the weight redistributes. Before, the only life you were truly accountable for in the field was your own. Now you have 5 operators who go through every door based on the plan you made, the information you assessed, the decision you signed off on. If the intelligence is wrong, they don't find that out in the briefing room. They find out in the hallway. Team leaders plan entries. That sounds simple. It isn't. Every call-out begins with incomplete information. A partial address, a rough description of the suspect, a vague account from a witness who was too scared to look directly at what they were describing. You take that information and you build a plan around it. You study the building layout, if you have one. You assign roles, who breaches, who covers the left, who holds the rear, who secures the primary. You brief your team. You answer questions. You carry in your head the awareness that every question they ask is a question about something that could get them killed if the answer is wrong. You lead from the stack. You're not behind the team watching, you're in. Making calls in real time as the situation deviates from the plan. Because it always deviates from the plan. There's a saying that gets attributed to various generals, and it's repeated enough in law enforcement circles that it's almost a cliché, but it remains true. No plan survives first contact with reality. What survives is the team's training, their trust in each other, and your ability to adapt in the seconds when adapting is the only option available. 3 years as a team leader and you're promoted to assistant commander. The callouts don't stop, but your role in them shifts. You're the one who coordinates between elements, manages the tactical channel, tracks the overall picture, while your team leaders manage the close fight. You're also the one who handles everything that happens between callouts, which is most of the job and none of the glory. Training schedules, equipment evaluations, budget requests, conversations with patrol commanders who want SWAT's resources for things SWAT wasn't designed for. You learn that the politics of running a special operations unit inside a police department are more complex than any entry scenario. At least in the field, you know who the threat is. Then you become commander. The first time you give the order to deploy your team, really give it. As the unit commander with full authority and full accountability, you feel the weight of it in a way you hadn't anticipated. You've been in this building before, on the other side of the radio. Now you're the voice in the earpiece. Your operators are inside, and you are outside, which is the correct tactical positioning for a commander and also for someone who came up as an operator. Almost unbearable. You manage it. You do your job. The incident ends without casualties. You write the after-action report at 2 a.m. and find 2 things you do differently next time. There is always a next time. As SWAT commander, you also become the public face of the unit in ways you hadn't expected. After a critical incident, a shooting, a controversial entry, anything that generates footage, you stand at a podium. You answer questions from reporters who are asking the right questions in the wrong way. You say what you can say and decline to say what you can't, and understand that the gap between those two things is where public trust either builds or erodes. You are honest where you can be honest. You are careful where you have to be careful. You learn that this is also a skill and that it matters as much as any tactical skill you developed earlier in your career. Promotion to division chief puts SWAT, bomb disposal, and the hostage negotiation unit all under your oversight. You now coordinate resources across 3 specialized units that each have their own culture, their own training standards, their own sense of identity. A bomb technician and a SWAT operator are both exceptional professionals who would struggle to explain to each other exactly what the other one does. Your job is to make sure they can work together when the situation requires it, and to make sure that situation never requires it unless it absolutely has to. You answer to the chief. You attend command staff meetings where SWAT is a line item. You fight for budget. You explain once a quarter at minimum why your unit costs what it costs and why the alternative, not having it, costs more in ways that don't show up on a spreadsheet. And then, somehow, you are the chief. You ran toward this job your whole career, and now you understand something that no one, at any rank below, this one can fully understand. SWAT is one tool, a precise, expensive, carefully maintained tool that you would rather never have to use. Because the situations that require it are by definition situations where everything else has already failed. Your job now is to make sure those situations occur as rarely as possible, to make sure that when they do occur, the tool is ready, and to carry besant for the rest of your career and likely the rest of your life, the full weight of every time you gave the order and everything that followed from it. You signed up for this. Every version of you at every rank signed up for exactly this. You do it again.